everybody, it's Jamie at the League-Kempner House in Galveston. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're a nonprofit set up to restore this incredible house here in Galveston, Texas. It's a turn-of-the-century mansion built in 1893, 1894, and we've been doing a ton of work. If you like these kind of things, be sure and subscribe and turn on notifications so you can follow along. We do a video usually every Sunday, and I wanted to give kind of an introduction to today's, just taking a quiet moment to kind of pause. We've been frantically working early in the summer. We had a lot of projects going on all over the house, and it's now September, so the footage you're about to see is from the middle of July. Because we had so much work, it's taken us time to get that footage up online, and we try to go in order because our videography is a way of documenting the work going on. We're doing a true restoration. It's also a way for you guys to follow along and see what happens. But I'm standing in the kitchen, and this has been a huge project for us, and it's going to be a huge project going forward. There's still so much to do. If you know the story of the house and how I came to acquire it and then turn it into a nonprofit, you know that this kitchen was a big draw for me. It was a fully intact Victorian kitchen. If you pan around, not so much anymore. Unfortunately, it had severe structural problems underneath where we're standing, and it had some really bad safety issues because of the way that it was actually constructed and the concrete subfloor was poured. So if you go back and check out our other videos, we last left you with the demolition of the tile in this room and that concrete subfloor. So follow me for a second. Let me show you what we did with all that. So because we're doing a true restoration, not a...
Okay.
Did you stop videoing?
No, I did not. I was panned in and didn't realize it. Okay. So now this is better.
We have a problem with shooting video, not actually recording. So anyway, because we're doing a true restoration, not a remodeling or redesign of the house, we're trying to keep as much of the original material as possible. So we tried very carefully to remove the tile from the mortar bed, and you can see some of it didn't work well. There was chipping on the tile, so these tiles aren't good. We didn't throw anything away because we'll cut these and maybe do some kind of mosaic pattern to utilize them. But we tried to get everything out fully intact. All these have to be cleaned, sorted, kind of graded, the really good ones from the really bad ones, and evaluate how we'll use them. And then we still have some that were just so stuck we couldn't get them off, so we've saved them here with the mortar bed on them. But there's a lot of tile there, so let's go back and play a game real quick before we get into the technical parts. Little area we elected not to demo. There's a lot of reasons why. We came up with a workaround for the concrete subfloor because it's such a small area and because the supports are so close and tight in here. But one thing I did was create a little grid. It's 1 foot square, and we've counted those so that we can measure this kitchen area and determine how many tiles we removed and have to clean. So put a guess in the comment how many tiles you think we removed from here, and at the end of the video I'll let you know how many we think we have based on our little calculation of square footage. So let's get into now what's going on in the video you're about to see. So part of the problem with a project like this is once you're in it, you create another problem. And we had a lot of issues with the floor joists under this kitchen area. This is load-bearing brick. So our floor joists span from a beam under this wall all the way over to pockets inside the brick underneath. They all rotted out against this wall. Everything was cantilevered down, and I've made a little model at home. I'm going to try to show you what was going on under this floor, and we'll get to that in a minute. But for right now, let me just say that once we got all this demolished, we got rid of the safety issue with the concrete falling, we made the decision to once again take everything out, all the joists, and start completely over fresh underneath. So that was not a project in our budget, but it's something we felt like we needed to do this right. So let me show you the little model. I went home and made my little model, and it just did not show up very well in the video. So I decided to just go back to drawing it out. So this is a representation of what the floor joists looked like originally. They went from that beam on the left that was original to the house, crossed over this first temporary beam that somebody put in the basement to support the joist, because the end that goes all the way to the far right in the wall had rotted out, so the wall was not actually providing any support. And we had a configuration in the basement that showed this temporary first beam becoming a permanent beam. So we went ahead, demolished out that rotted right hand side of the floor joist, and on top of that beam butted the original beam that was left to the new beam, so that each side, the left hand side and the right hand side beam, were both supported on each end. The one on the left was supported by the original load-bearing wall, and the beam, the one on the right, was supported by the beam, and it was now embedded in the wall into the original pocket that was there. Unfortunately, we decided that we needed to move that beam for the configuration of the house in its new state as a working house museum. So we moved that beam, that temporary beam, closer to the original load-bearing beam, and what happened was it left the new floor joist coming out of the wall unsupported, because the beam had been under that joint, and now we've scooted it over to the left. So we needed to do something to support that joist. So what we did was something called sistering, and that's just laying another floor joist beside it so that the left end is on the new beam and the right hand side spans across that joist that we added, and we bolt them together and kind of create a new staggered looking beam. And it's okay, it supports the load. It worked fine. As you recall, we took that new beam in and out as we poured the concrete floor and put the new concrete beam in the foundation to support this beam, and it held the house up fine. It was a little bit saggy without that beam there, but it structurally was okay. But it was very messy, and there were other problems with how the concrete subfloor worked. And so once we got everything demolished and took a look at that, it was clear that we needed to go ahead and remove everything and start over. So there's no reason to do anything with the floor joist on the left. It's the original wood in the house. It's supported very well by the original load-bearing wall, and the new beam, it's that part to the right-hand side that we have to worry about. So we basically added one continuous new floor joist that spans from our new kind of permanent beam over to the wall. And it can't butt anymore because it needs to sit on that beam, so we did it beside it. Now the problem with that is that it changes the pocket in the wall, so the pocket needs to scoot over and be a little bit offset. So Ricardo had to get in and jackhammer out new pockets, fill the old pockets, and install this beam. So it's a much cleaner way of doing it. It does a lot of things for us we won't get into in detail in this video, but it's one of those things. It worked before, it was okay. We have a one-time opportunity with this kitchen floor gone to do it a better way, and so we're going to go ahead and take the opportunity to do that. We're wasting a little bit of labor that was already spent, but we are going to salvage all the materials, so there's not going to be extra material costs. So it's actually kind of a low cost way. This is something they were able to do in a day, so for an extra $1,000 to get this done properly, it was well worth it in the grand scheme of the restoration. So that's the work you're going to see in the video today, is the getting all this completely done, getting the joist in there. And it's a little haphazard because we are down here 3 days a week doing tours, and my sister Jo is usually videoing. She is today. Say hi, Jo. But when we're working like that, I'm down here 5-6 days a week, usually by myself, and I don't have somebody extra to video. So I'm trying to work and video and keep up with what's going on and keep these guys busy and answer questions. So the video tends to be a little bit haphazard. So I'm going to string it together and kind of show you what was going on and get on with the work. So apologize for the choppiness of it, but that's just kind of real life down here. That's how work goes. But first we have a special guest. Good. Hi, Amy. Thanks for sending your son Richard to come see us. Hope you're having a good day. Ooh, spiderweb. All right, it is a Sunday, and my husband is here to help me. I just didn't have it in me yesterday to do this, and I have to do it before Ricardo comes tomorrow so it has time to dry. These are the new joists to go under the kitchen, and I have to put the epoxy on the ends, and they're treated lumber 2x12s by 12, I think, feet, and they're heavy, and I have to prop them up and expose the ends. So we've made a special trip down here to work on this. Okay, I have my little setup. It just took us about 5 minutes to separate all the boards with some old timbers. I've got my battery light, and I've decided to roll this on so I can get underneath easy, but of course I don't have a single roller cover here. So we are headed to the Lucas to unload. I'll grab a roller cover and run back and do this, and my husband can get started on his chores. All that work, it's coming undone. You have to make a new pocket. So while Ricardo was surveying his domain and watching them start undoing all that work we had spent so much time doing previously, I pointed out to him a problem that's been bothering me from the very beginning. There was one area that was done around the hearth, and it's not a hearth for a fireplace. It was a way they built to support the weight of that big cast iron gas stove here. And I've never liked the way this final joist was supported at the end. There was a butt joint done and a little bit of sistering, but not enough, I think, to really carry all this weight. So we decided to add another sister joist back in this area that goes from the wall all the way back to that new permanent beam that we've added, and give this thing some support. And you can kind of see here what I'm talking about. That front end edge stops, and it's just barely kind of sistered over to the side, and it's the last joist there is butt together, so it's not very strong. So we're going to add a third sistered piece across here and pick up some of that weight.
I mean, this one is so strong.
Because just the hearth structure itself is very heavy. We will have another stove in this area, so we want to make sure that's done right. While the kitchen joists are coming down, some of the guys were outside correcting a problem that we created when we put in the sidewalk. It's our nightmare scenario. We're having to take out something that looks so good. But we decided the slope was a little too much and it was a fall hazard. When you come around the corner, it makes you a little unstable. So we're straightening out the dip a little bit. Mundane task for today. So this is a bunch of sand that Ricardo got to lay the bricks, but it was contaminated with pieces of clay and they couldn't use it. So I am sifting through it and getting a bucket full at a time. Ooh, it's kind of heavy. And okay, it's really heavy to do one-handed with the phone. Anyway, I'm taking it over here to our grass area because the sod has shrunk up and left gaps. And so I'm using it to fill Sorry, I stopped talking while they were sawing. They had to remove our little walkway. We decided the dip was too much and it was unsafe to stand or to walk on, so they're redoing that. So anyway, I've been out here while it's a little shady and we actually had some cloud cover this morning. And you can see I've just been filling in the cracks. So another one of those very, very glamorous jobs, but this is going to be, you know, our festival area where we have booths and people walking. And so before the grass grows across those cracks and makes it harder to see and fill, I need to get out here and get it done. And we actually have kind of a cool breeze this morning. It's gorgeous, but that will not stay that way for a long. All right, I ran for lunch. They had lunch. They've got all these down. And Ricardo thinks we need to cut the ends off. Oh, and he's already got the new pockets made and expanded. You can see an old metal bracket there. Oh, there he is. Hello. Oh. Okay, my tile's not looking good right there. I need to go back. You want to cut these off? Okay, that's all about to fall. Yeah, I think that'll work because otherwise there's nothing supported there. And we can just use those carriage bolts through there. We can put some, we have some lag screws we can get. We didn't have any lag screws in this, did we? We only had bolts.
Okay.
But
You want to put bolts?
well, we can get some lag screws to go in there. We have some lag bolts we could put there, but we could get some lag screws to go there. I may have some, I don't know, I'll have to go look. Yeah, that looks good. So that one, oh, that one's sticking up too high? That one's up too high? Yeah, you can see it going up. Yeah. Do you want me to get that big fan, that great big fan? I'm gonna get that big orange fan. Correct for that joist being too high, the solution was to make the pocket lower to drop the front edge of that joist down in the wall. Do you want to put one bolt through each one just to keep them from rotating, or just to keep them from rotational force? Yeah. Save them, you know me. That's fine. They're fine like that. Yeah, but don't throw that away. Put that. You can cut them back like that. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, just stack them in the pile. We'll make something with them. Once that joist was sistered in place and everything was level, it was time to use the lag bolts and the lag screws to snug the joist up to the sistered piece. And you've seen us use those lag bolts and lag screws before, and you've seen us demonstrate how they work and how they're designed to actually do that, bring the two boards together. But I thought this was an interesting video. It's a little slow, but actually shows you, as Ricardo's screwing that lag screw in, how the two joists pull together and tighten up. And this just continues to get tighter and tighter and tighter as we add additional screws and bolts along the length of these two joists and continue to tighten them. So it is actually a design feature of the lag bolt and the lag screw to have this effect on the two pieces of wood. We need to do down closer to the board, to the joint.
How many you want?
Well, you told me to buy 3.
Buy.
That's what you said to buy. Let's put, I bought some longer ones. Let's go closer to the end. No, on this side. Yeah, see. Yeah. No, because we're trying to hold that, yeah, that weight up. Yeah. I've got some longer ones. Speak the language. Well, I wasn't recording, so. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at this. I think I pushed record and I actually pushed stop. So this process actually goes pretty fast. The pockets are there, the joists just slip in, and then we're putting just a bolt or two to hold it upright until we get the floor in and secure it. But then we get to kind of the end of the kitchen up against the wall between the kitchen and the butler's pantry, and Ricardo points out what is a pretty big problem for us. So when this was actually done, I believe they poured the floor and the subfloor for the kitchen and the butler's pantry at one time, and then built this dividing non-load bearing wall on top of it. So it was actually not on a joist, it was between joists, and it would have been supported by the kitchen subfloor, which we have now removed. So this wall is somewhat free hanging over on this end, and we need to do something about it. So Ricardo was underneath looking at it. I did what I always do. I just had to sit down, and we spent about 35 minutes talking through some different scenarios and options to support this. And it's important that it has quite a bit of support, even though it's not load bearing. It is going to have this heavy tile on it, and it's going to have that kitchen sink that we took down and removed earlier. And that kitchen sink itself weighs over 150 pounds probably, or even more. I think I'm going to try to figure out how to get a scale and weigh that, or find a weight online for them, but it's pretty heavy. We also have to be careful what we put underneath, because our plumbing is going to come up in this wall. So we need to make sure that we have access for the big plumbing drain line and the drains for the sinks on this. So we don't want to do something that we cause another problem. So it did take quite a bit of time to come up with a solution that we were both happy with, but it is just one of those things in working with an old house or doing any kind of remodeling, really, that there's just usually some unexpected things that come up, that it was hard to see it with the kitchen floor in. You couldn't really tell, but once the kitchen floor was out, then we could really see how this wall was placed on that. And again, it's not load bearing. You always want to check and make sure you don't have any load bearing walls above something that you're demolishing. It's just a partition wall, but it is important to have the proper support on it, again, because we're going to have a big heavy sink on it, and we don't want to do anything that would crack our new floor once we get it on there. So once that problem was resolved, they could carry on and finish the length of this room. So as I said, problem solved. I continued on with getting the rest of the floor joist in, and I apologize. The video stops at this point. It was a very busy day. Things were happening all over the place as usual, and I did not get a shot up under that wall to show you what was actually going on there. I apologize. I'll try to remember next time at the house to go back and film that and show you what happened. It may show up in another video, because I still have to show you what we decided to do under the butler's pantry area. We elected not to demo that, just like we elected not to demo the little area, pantry area at the back of the kitchen. So a different kind of support structure went on under there. So maybe we'll pick back up with that in the next video. I haven't gotten that far ahead to know what's coming up. But all in all, this process was very easy, went very quick, and it's good to have it done and have it done right. So once again, thanks to Ricardo and his crew and their thoughtfulness and their care about this house. They love it just as much as I do. He's very proud, his team's very proud of the work that they're doing, and they just really are thoughtful about everything that goes into this process to make sure it's done properly. Okay, so that kind of brings us to where we are today. We have a plywood subfloor down, and we are anxious, or I'm anxious, to get this up and get the permanent subfloor down, because this is not the best configuration. Ricardo was very thoughtful. He put down a little threshold here to help make this the shorter step. I've gone back and painted it, as you saw, to make it visually aware, but we have an unevenness here because we're trying really hard not to cut the plywood. This plywood is very expensive. Building materials have really skyrocketed with inflation in the last few months. It's just crazy what we have to pay now for things. And we can reuse this up in the attic. We have to floor in the whole attic for our AC equipment, so we don't want to chop this up and waste it. We wanted it in whole sheets. And then you see it makes this big slope up here, and that's because of the way that the chimney was framed. This was never a wood burning chimney. It was a place for a cast iron gas stove to sit. It would have been very heavy, and they did the brick arch like you would a fireplace hearth underneath, and so that framing is higher than the top of the floor joist, so that's why this slope coming up. So we've created a bit of a problem for ourselves because we didn't want to demolish this over here. We have to be very, very precise with our subfloor level coming from this part to the new part. So we'll have to take this piece up and work up that subfloor and make some decisions about that. We also still need to take down all of our wall tile. You can see that it was just falling off. The floor tiles were, some of it just fell here. Look, like this is, let's see how it's protruding. Joe can get close. You know, it's not stuck. This is all free stacked and at risk of falling. So those of you that follow us have seen how we use the contact paper. We still need to cover these walls. And then because of the way this was built, it seems like the entire concrete subfloor was poured before these partition walls were put up. And so now we're kind of hanging here. So we have to figure out how to support under here and what we're going to do with these walls. We kind of solved that problem under this wall. You saw with the joist being put in, but we have to do something with these walls. So there's still an awful lot to do to preserve this kitchen. We've got some sheetrock that needs to be demolished. We're going back with plaster, so we need to get that out of here. But you'll see a lot of work in this room in the coming months and next year. But a top priority is to figure out the subfloor issue and get a permanent subfloor in here. It'll be a long time before we tile, but if we can get our subfloor built and level, then we'll just have a small gap with the tile there. So anyway, so that's kind of where we are. Things are not slowing down. We're in event season, if you will. We just finished our first chalk walk. We had a great time with that. We have Ghost Coast coming up. We have lots of fall activities around the supernatural, and we have Dickens. So we're very, very busy on the volunteer front with that, but we're also still going full speed ahead with construction and our fire suppression system. A bunch of electrical work outside. We're getting ready for that wedding. It is a very busy time for us. It is not slowing down. That is great news. Thanks to everybody's support for watching us. And we're getting a lot more tours coming in. People are starting to understand who we are and what we're trying to accomplish, and you guys are a big part of that. So be sure and share with your friends. Like I said, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and follow along.
Like this video.
Like the video, comment. It helps the YouTube algorithm. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more kind of contemporaneous postings about what's going on in the house. So thanks again, and we will see you next week here at the League-Kempner House in Galveston.